history begins in a hospital room where a boy is flirting with a girl, but the girl tells the boy to stop because someone can come in. The boy tells the girl not to be afraid because he asked his guard Wang Kao to watch outside, so no one will come in. The girl asks the boy what will happen if the patient Yi Chen lying near them will wake up, to which the boy replies Yi Chen is a crippled loser and he can't do much even if he wakes up. The boy tells the girl that Yi Chen was aware of them long before, and even if Yi Chen dared to hit him today, he would have murdered Yi Chen in front of her. Meanwhile, when the thunderlight strikes, Yi Chen suddenly wakes up and immediately recognizes the girl Liu Yuxi and the boy Yuan Hao. Yi Chen realizes he has returned to his previous life, and he has been in Zhongnan City for the first time today. Yi Chen remembered today was the day when he found out that his girlfriend Liu Yuxi was sleeping with Yuan Hao. When he begged them, he was pushed down by Yuan Hao and hit by a truck full of dirt in the middle of the road. Despite his survival, he ended up with a lifelong disability, and when his father went to the Yuan family to seek justice for him, the Yuan family beat him to death. After hearing the news, Yi Chen also died away from despair. However, the heavens didn't abandon him. His soul crossed over to the immortal world and experienced 3,000 years of cultivation. When Yi Chen reached the realm of Mahayana, he dominated the world and the 8 realms and was honored by countless people as the immortal emperor of Xuanchen, but his humiliating past and his father's tragic death were the things that he could not let go of. Yi Chen's body ended up dying as a result of his failure to overcome the tribulation, and he never thought he would be back to that day again. Back to the present, since Yi Chen's legs are crippled and he is awake, Yuan Hao says he wants to play Yi Chen's girlfriend in front of him. Yuan Hao wants to show him the consequences of hitting him, but Yi Chen knows he has the Taixuan Sutra in his head, the top cultivation in the world of cultivating immortals and curing crippled legs, simply only one idea. The Taixuan Sutra leads the true Kai into the body and circulates around the sky, which allows him to reach the first level of Kai refinement in a single moment. Yi Chen knows bone cleansing is like a new beginning, and he doesn't care if he has a disability in both legs. Suddenly, Yi Chen gets up on his feet using Taixuan Sutra, and Yuan Hai and Liu Yuxi are shocked to see what is happening. Liu thinks Yi Chen and the doctor must have planned to deceive her in order to gain her sympathy, but suddenly, Yi Chen slaps her down and asks if she has any pity for his crippled legs. Yuan Hao furiously tries to punch Yi Chen, but Yi Chen dodges it and asks if Yuan Hao really wants to make a move on him. Yi Chen gives him a decisive blow in his stomach, so Yuan Hao calls Wang Kao to come in and orders him to get Yi Chen to death. Meanwhile, Liu Yuxi says she can't have any scars on her face, so she tells Yuan Hao to take her to the greatest cosmetic hospital. Wang Kao says he'll make Yi Chen's life miserable, but suddenly, Yi Chen knocks him down and says no one has ever won against him. After some while, when Yi Chen leaves the hospital, he thinks that he is the immortal emperor of Xuanchen, and in this world, no one can offend him or bully him. Yi Chen has made up his mind that he'll make Yuan Hao and Liu Yuxi pay their debts slowly. Yi Chen remembers during his accident, there was a woman named Chu Bingyu who made a sudden turn to avoid hitting Yi Chen and ended up hitting a barrier and was seriously injured. Yi Chen thinks he is to blame for what happened, so he thinks he must see Chu Bingyu in order to resolve the problem. On the other hand, Chu Bingyu's parents are worried because of their daughter's accident, and when her mother asks Dr. Chen how her daughter is, he replies Chu Bingyu's situation is very strange and the injuries caused by the accident is not critical, but she is experiencing organ failure all of a sudden. The doctor says every test run on Chu Bingyu shows that she is reaching the end of her life, and her mother is shocked at how that could happen. Bingyu's father requests the doctor to save his daughter, and Chu family is willing to pay any price for that. Dr. Chen says he has been in this profession for decades, saving countless people, so according to his judgment, even God won't be able to save his daughter. Bingyu's parents are devastated by how this could happen, and her mother is upset to think that this is how her daughter is going to end. Suddenly, Yi Chen arrives there, saying it's a joke and asking who said that even God can't save her. Bingyu's mother recognizes Yi Chen and that he is the one in the footage who ran into the middle of the road all of a sudden, causing her daughter to run into an obstacle. Bingyu's father furiously asks if Yi Chen is there to ask for death, but Yi Chen agrees that Bingyu's accident does have something to do with her, so he is there to save her. Dr. Chen calls Yi Chen a lunatic with a mouth full of lies, tells him to get out, and suggests Chu should be preparing for his daughter's funeral. Yi Chen calls the doctor quite crappy to speak death to someone who is still alive. Yi Chen tells Chu that his daughter was born with a cold constitution, and before she was 10, every day from 3 am to midnight, his daughter's temperature would drop, causing her to shiver. Yi Chen says though it might have gotten better afterwards, it's still happening after every 5 days. When Yi Chen asks if he is right, Bingyu's mother shockingly replies that he is right, but when she asks how he knows, Yi Chen replies there is no need for them to know. Yi Chen asks Chu if he is going to allow him to enter and save his daughter or not, to which Chu replies that he allows it and leaves everything in Yi Chen's hands. Yi Chen tells them to excuse him because he doesn't like that there are people around him when he is treating someone, so they should wait outside. After seeing Bingyu, Yi Chen says she is beautiful, and it would have been a pity if she died. Suddenly, Yi Chen starts treating Bingyu and thinks it seems like she is not naturally born with a cold constitution. She was cast with a frost-venomous pest. Yi Chen knows the weaker the host is, the stronger the poison is, but he takes out that venomous pest, which makes him realize that the Chu family has some big rivals. Yi Chen knows that venomous pests like this could only be cast when the person is in the last stage of Kai refining. Yi Chen feels the poison is gone, but the cold energy is still there, so he says he can only keep her alive for now, and they can get rid of that cold energy next time. Yi Chen, while treating her, says the canon of supreme mystery is the top cultivation method in the cultivation realm, and the energy cultivated from it is also one of the origins of the universe. Yi Chen thinks giving Bingyu a surge of energy would be enough to keep her alive, but as she feels extremely hot, Yi Chen thinks he has given too much energy. Suddenly, when Bingyu gets up, she yells and asks Yi Chen who he is and what he is doing there, to which Yi Chen replies that he is there to save her. Meanwhile, Bingyu's parents and the doctor arrive, and they are shocked to see she is awake. Bingyu's mother emotionally hugs her because she thinks she is going to lose her forever. Meanwhile, when the doctor checks Bingyu, he is shocked that Yi is a god coming true, because all of Bingyu's failing organs are functioning back to normal. Chen calls Yi a brilliant doctor and says even Yama would have a headache if he saw it. The doctor immediately bowed to Yi Chen, saying it was his fault that he had disrespected him, and asked for Yi Chen's forgiveness. Yi Chen says it's alright because there is a limit to Dr. Chen's skill and vision, and it would only be normal not to believe him. The doctor thinks Yi Chen's skill is godly, so he says if Yi Chen doesn't mind, he is willing to honor Yi as his teacher and learn beside him. Yi Chen thinks the energy in this world is so thin, and it will be hard to cultivate an internal core, but it'll be better to use some external pills first to improve his power. So he tells the doctor that there is no need to honor him because there are a few things he needs. Yi Chen gives the doctor a list and says if the doctor is able to get the things for him, he'll be willing to teach the doctor a trick or two. The doctor takes the slip and says he'll put in all his efforts to get what Yi Chen wants. The doctor says even if he failed to be Yi Chen's apprentice, it would have been an honor if Yi Chen had been willing to teach him something. Meanwhile, Bingyu asks her mother what is going on, so her father tells her the whole thing. A few minutes later, Bingyu thanks Yi Chen for saving her life, but Yi says it's nothing, and they are even now. Chu says Yi has done them a huge deed, and he, Chu Tianhong, could never forget this. When Chu asks how this could be even, Yi Chen replies that Bingyu is fine, so they don't owe him anything, but Chu says it would only be rude of him if he kept on being persistent. Chu says if Yi Chen needs any help in the future, he'll do his best to help him. Yi Chen tells Bingyu to be cautious of her diet, keep herself warm, and tone down with cold foods to avoid getting cold. After this, when Yi Chen leaves the hospital, he gets a call from his father, who asks Yi why it took him so long to pick up, and if he arrived at Zhongnan to see Liu Yuxi. Yi Chen replies to his dad that he saw her, but they broke up, to which his father replies that there is no need to force himself if the two are not suitable for each other. Yi Chen's father tells him to get himself together soon and not let the sadness get to him. Yi Chen's father tells him to go pay his Uncle Deng and Aunt Zhang a visit when he is free because they looked after him a lot when he was young. Yi Chen tells his father not to worry because he'll go. He remembers in the past, he insisted on being with Liu Yuxi, and that is what caused everything to go downhill. Yi Chen is happy because he is finally able to listen to his dad's voice after 3,000 years. Yi Chen used to think his dad was annoying back then, but now that he is listening to it, it makes him feel warm. After some while, Yi Chen reaches the place where his uncle and aunt live and thinks he'll finally repay his aunt's kindness after 3,000 years. Suddenly, Yi Chen sees some goons outside his uncle's apartment, and he hears one of those guys saying that Zhang is rich, so they should ask for more interest or else their brother, who will be the one they'll be talking to. Considering the situation, Yi Chen assumes that they are causing trouble for Auntie Zhang, and one of those goons after seeing Yi Chen ask if he is an acquaintance of Zhang who wants to stand up for her. The guy warns Yi Chen to better be ready if he wants to get involved in this because she owes them 5 million, and if she can't hand out that money today, they'll beat up her whole family, including Yi Chen. Suddenly, Yi Feng kicks that guy Jai, making him fall into a dustbin, which terrifies the other goons. Yi Chen says if all of them leave this place now, he'll still spare their life. After some while, Yi Chen rings the bell of his aunt's house, and as she opens it, she asks him why he is in Jiannan, to which he replies that he is there for an internship for Jia Ren so he can visit both her and his uncle. Yi Chen's aunt says that now Yi Chen is there, so she'll make him his favorite food and tells her husband, Lao Deng, who is reading a newspaper, to see who has arrived. Lao Deng is happy to see Yi Chen because he has not seen him for a few years. When Lao Deng asks how Yi Chen's father is, Chen replies that his father is working in a shoe factory, and Lao says Yi Chen's father has been working there for a long time. Lao Deng says Yi Chen comes from a poor family, so he should work harder to lift some weight off his father's shoulders. Lao says when he was Yi Chen's age, he had already opened a company in Jiangnan, but Yi Chen, with an uninterested expression, says yes, which makes Lao furious because Yi Chen is not even listening to him. Lao Deng thinks he could already see how Yi Chen's future could be. Meanwhile, Lao Deng's daughter arrives there, and when she asks who this boy is, her father replies Yi Chen is the son of Uncle Yi, their ex-neighbor, and Yi Chen is there to get some work in Jiangnan. The girl says she does not remember it, and thinks this unknown stranger has come to their house from nowhere, so he is probably trying to ask for their help. A few minutes later, while having dinner, Yi Chen tells his aunt that her cooking is still as good as it was after all those years. Meanwhile, his cousin thinks Yi Chen is flattering, and he is going to ask for their help next. Suddenly, Zhang asks if Yi Chen has a girlfriend, to which he replies he doesn't have one, so Zhang says it's great. Zhang says Yi Chen might not have known this, but both they and Yi Chen's father actually arranged for Yi Chen and Lingxiu to get married. Lingxiu gets shocked and furiously asks her mother if this is some kind of a joke. Lingxiu thought Yi Chen was there to ask for their help, but she didn't know he was there for her. Lingxiu thinks it's the modern age, but this man is still thinking of old traditions. Suddenly, Yi Chen says his aunt must have remembered this incorrectly because he never heard his father mention this. Zhang replied they were thinking of bringing it up after Lingxiu graduated, but they didn't expect Yi Chen to be in Jiangnan now. Suddenly, Lingxiu yells that it's an age of free love, and there is no more of that old arranged marriage thing. Lingxiu tells Yi Chen to look at himself as a man who wouldn't think about how to work hard, but instead thinks of how to get a wife with all these old traditions. Lingxiu furiously asks what kind of man Yi Chen is, which infuriates Lingxiu's mother, and she scolds Lingxiu that this is not how they treat a guest. Lingxiu asks her mother why she is defending people like him and says she is done. Suddenly, Lao Deng tells Yi Chen to follow him, and when they go to the terrace, Lao Deng says what Lingxiu said is not wrong, and even if Yi Chen's family is poor, he still has to have ambition. Lao Deng suggests Yi Chen should be thinking about how to work hard to make money instead of relying on the old traditions to get himself a wife and a family. Lao Deng offers Yi Chen 100,000 and tells him to see it as funding since both his father and Lao Deng were quite close back then. Lao Deng tells Yi Chen to forget about the arranged marriage between him and Ling Xiu, but Yi Chen says his uncle has misunderstood, and if it wasn't for Auntie mentioning it, he wouldn't even know there was such a thing, and he wouldn't have believed in it either. Yi Chen says he still has a lot of unfinished business in Zhongnan, so he decides to leave and says he'll visit them again once he has settled down. Uncle Deng says he is a smart person, so he should work hard to change his family's condition, and both he and Ling Xiu might still have a chance. Before leaving, Yi Chen tells his aunt that he'll visit when he is free, and if there are any difficulties, they should call him, and he'll do his best to help. Auntie says he is a good kid and she didn't take care of him for anything, but she wonders why Yi Chen is telling her all this and if he knows that she is in debt. On the other hand, Hu, the leader of the guys Yi Chen has beaten, gets furious at his men for not being able to get a small amount back. Hu yells at them that a dog is worth more than them, and Jai says he knows he is useless, but that kid is really powerful because he knocked him down with a single punch. Hu kicks Jai, and when he asks where that kid is and how dare he disrespect them, suddenly Yi Chen arrives there and asks if Hu is looking for him. Hu's lackeys get happy that Hu is going to beat Yi Chen, and Hu says this kid is dead meat. After being out there for so many years, Hu says he has never seen anyone who dares to give him an attitude, and Yi Chen is the first one. Hu punches Yi Chen with great force in his chest, but Yi Chen is standing still. Hu's lackeys think Yi Chen is startled, and they say Hu's speed and strength are practically the same as a professional wrestler, so they think Yi Chen is done for. Suddenly, Yi Chen moves behind Hu and presses a pressure point in his armpit, making him scream in pain. Hu's lackeys get shocked that he is overpowered and his arm goes numb. Suddenly, Yi Chen moves to hit him again, and Hu gets scared to see that Yi Chen is a martial artist who can kill him, but suddenly, Yi Chen stops before hitting Hu. Hu is shocked to see this, and when Yi Chen asks if they can talk now, Hu thanks him for sparing his life. Hu tells Yi Chen that there is no need to pay back the debt and the interest Yi Chen's auntie owed and take it as an apology gift. Yi Chen says they'll pay back how much they owe, and that is the line, but he asks Hu why Auntie Zhang is in debt. Hu replies to Yi Chen that Auntie Zhang said her company was in debt, and she was in need of the money to recover from that. Yi Chen immediately remembers the energy on the blue star is thin, so it's impossible for them to have a cultivator appear out of nowhere. Yi Chen thinks he has to know more, and Hu calls him a martial artist, which he says he is not, but he is interested, so he asks if Hu can tell him about this in more detail. Meanwhile, Ling Xiu is taking out the garbage when she sees Yi Chen talking to Hu. She thinks Yi Chen is thinking of living off a woman and messing around with the gangsters, so he is going to jail one day. After some while, when Hu has finished talking about martial artists, Yi Chen tells them they can leave. As Yi Chen also starts to leave, Jai tells Hu that even if Yi Chen is good at fighting, Hu doesn't need to be so nice to him, but Hu asks Jai what he knows. Hu says if his guess is correct, Yi Chen's existence is the same as Master Jiao Lei, who is Hu's boss and the head of the entire underground of Zhongnan City. Jai is shocked to know that Yi Chen is on the same level as Master Lei. After some while, when Yi Chen goes home, he remembers that according to what Quan Hu said, the martial arts in this world are categorized into light energy, dark energy, and transformation energy. According to Yi Chen's knowledge, the 4th level Kai refining cultivator is the equivalent of a light energy martial artist. In cultivation, there are 9 realms, including Kai refining, foundation establishment, gold core, nascent soul, divine transformation, consolidation, Mahayana, and tribulation. Yi Chen has achieved the Mahayana realm in his past life, so even if he has to start over again, he still has thousands of years of cultivation experience. Yi Chen thinks with the help of the Canon of Supreme Mystery, it'll be an easy job. As expected, Yi Chen achieved 4th level Kai refining in an hour, and he thinks everything was rocky at the start, but once Dr. Chen Ping got him some medicines, he could start on core cultivation. Suddenly, Yi Chen gets a call from Chu Bingyu, and when he asks if she needs anything, she says Yi Chen has just arrived in Kaianchuan, so it might be hard for him to rent a house. Coincidentally, Bingyu's family has an empty house, so she says if he doesn't mind, he can settle down there. Yi Chen replies he'll take the offer and tells Bingyu to send him his address so he'll be there and he'll get rid of the cold energy in her body as well. A while later, when Yi Chen goes there, Bingyu asks if he likes the place, to which Yi Chen replies he doesn't have much to ask for. Suddenly, when Bingyu asks when Yi Chen will remove the cold energy from her body, he replies they can do it right now. After going inside, Yi Chen completely removes the cold energy from her body and tells her that she is free to leave. Bingyu thanks Yi Chen and tells him that her father is having a banquet tomorrow night at the Moon Palace. Bingyu hopes he'll be there, and Yi Chen says he'll come. After Bingyu leaves, Yi Chen, while standing on his terrace, feels quite nice and thinks the spiritual energy on a mountaintop is sufficient. Yi Chen wonders if the villa is the center, and he is building a spiritual gathering formation around it. Suddenly, Yi Chen sees some guys in a villa next to his, and he sees there is a girl who doesn't look right. The girl Ning Kui is unconscious, and a guy named Feng near her asks why she can't be obedient and how she has to make him force himself onto her. Feng says he has slept with many who are more famous than her, so she should stop playing the innocent card. Suddenly, Feng's men request him to share her with them also, for which he agrees, and Feng tells one of them to set the camera in place immediately. Feng says once they get a good shot, Ning Kui will have to obey them. And when one of the guys rushes to close the curtains, he notices Yi Chen is watching them. The guy immediately tells Feng that there is someone out there, and he sees them, so Feng tells his man to go grab the guy and immediately bring that guy to him because he'll pay him to keep it private. Suddenly, Feng changes his mind and orders his men to kill that guy, and he'll pay his men $1 million afterwards, for which his men instantly agree. While they are talking, suddenly Yi Chen enters the room by breaking the window and says they dragged a woman, yet still thinking of murdering him. Yi Chen calls them shameless and asks if they really think he did not hear that. But Feng's men are confused about how Yi Chen came in there. Feng asks his men what they are afraid of and orders them to kill Yi Chen because no one knows what happened there. One of Feng's men says Yi Chen has only himself to blame for snooping into other people's business. Suddenly, Yi Chen stabs all of Yi Chen's men with the pieces of broken glass from the window, which terrifies Feng, and Yi Chen says it seems like Feng is the one behind all this. Feng begs Yi Chen not to kill him because he has connections, so Yi Chen will be in trouble if he kills him. Suddenly, Yi Chen kicks Feng into a wall, and he dies on the spot. Now Yi Chen is worried about how to clean the scene and the bodies because it'll be a problem if he doesn't. A few minutes later, Ning Kui wakes up, and after seeing Yi Chen, she asks, worriedly, who he is. Ning Kui remembers she was drunk and thinks Yi Chen followed her to her room to smear her reputation. Ning says she needs to call the cops, but Yi Chen immediately feints her. Yi Chen thinks it'll be a huge nuisance to explain all those dead bodies if she sees them and thinks since he has already been involved in this, he has to end it. Yi Chen calls Quan Hu because he has a difficult issue for which he needs Hu's help. After some while, Hu's men have taken care of the dead bodies and tell Yi Chen they'll be leaving. A while later, when Ning wakes up, she asks where she is and what happened, to which Yi Chen replies she has been dragged, but he saved her. Yi Chen says her headache is just the side effect of the drug and it'll be over soon, but Ning yells that it's he who followed her and wanted to do something to her. Yi Chen tells her to think whatever she wants, and seeing him calm, Ning wonders if she is misunderstanding. Ning wonders where Director Feng is because he was eager to escort her there, and wonders if it was Feng who drugged her. Suddenly, she sees a camera there and wonders if it has recorded something. After Yi Chen leaves, Ning sees the recording and becomes furious to see it's the director who did it, but she feels embarrassed to know Yi Chen is the one who saved her. On the other hand, Yi Chen, while cultivating in his room, feels good to have spiritual energy around him and thinks if he were back in the old place, he'd probably have taken up to 10 days to stabilize the realm. Yi Chen thinks once the pill has been cultivated, he'll be able to finish up the evolution with the help of the spiritual gathering formation and breakthrough into the last stage. Yi Chen remembers his tribulation that failed during his past life was not just because of his inner demons, but because he advanced too quickly, causing his foundation to collapse. While Yi Chen thinks he must build his foundation in this life, suddenly, the bell rings, and when he opens the door, he sees Ning there. Yi Chen asks her why she is there, and if she needs anything. Ning replies it's raining, and there is heavy thunder, so adding on the things that happened during the day, she is a bit scared. Suddenly, when Ning asks if she can stay there for a night, Yi Chen says she thinks he is following and harassing her. Ning replies she saw the recording and she has a photo shoot tomorrow, so she'll go back tomorrow morning and won't bother him for too long. Yi Chen tells her to come in and she thanks him that he is such a good person. After changing her clothes, Ning says this is actually the first time she entered the #1 villa since, usually, the Chu family would only use it to serve guests and not for sale. Ning can't believe Yi Chen actually managed to buy it, but Yi Chen replies he didn't buy it. He helped the Chu family, and this was a gift. Yi Chen tells her that if she is going to sleep there, then she should be quiet, so she replies she knows and she won't make a single noise. While Ning lies near Yi Chen, she feels weirdly comforted to be around Yi Chen, and she apologizes for misunderstanding him, but Yi Chen tells her not to mind and goes to sleep. Suddenly, Ning asks if he is a killer because she has seen he is trained through his moves. Suddenly, when Yi Chen doesn't respond, Ning asks if he is asleep and how a killer can let his guard down. Ning furiously yells if she is so uninteresting to him, but in the morning, when Yi Chen wakes up, he wonders if she really left early. Yi Chen realizes it's not an easy job to be an actress and remembers he should be working at the internship company because it's a mortal world, and he needs a mortal identity. A few minutes later, when Yi Chen comes out of his room, he is surprised to see Ning even making breakfast for him and leaving a thank you note with her phone number. After some time, Yi Chen goes to Jia Ran Food Inc., where a girl takes him to the planning department, where he'll be having his internship. Meanwhile, Yi Chen hears some female workers saying that he is Liu Yuxi's boyfriend and he looks good and all, but they never expected him to be abusive. The girls discussed when Yuxi came to work in the morning, the bandage was still on her face, and they heard Yi Chen burn her with cigarettes. The girls say that Yuxi is such a nice girl, and they cannot believe she is with an abusive man. Yuxi's friend tells her to break up with him because he is just a worker from a small town who is broke and useless, and now he is abusing her. Yuxi's friend tells her to remember Yuan Hao, who drove her to work at Porsche, is a good guy, and his father is the higher-ups of the Education Bureau. Yuxi's friend says Yuan seems like a smart guy who is better than Yi Chen, but Yuxi tells her friend Ji Ping to stop it because both he and Yuan are just normal friends. Ji Ping says Yi Chen still has the audacity to come in for work, so she'll teach him a lesson for Yuan and goes up to Yi Chen. Ji Ping tells Yi Chen to be grateful because Yuxi is with him, calls him a broke prick, but asks how he repays her. Ji Ping says if it was not for the bandage on Yuxi's face, they would not even know that she is getting abused at home. Ji Ping tells Yi Chen to knock some sense in his head and ask if he thinks he deserves Yuxi, to which Yi Chen replies that they are a bunch of brainless idiots. Yi Chen tells Ji Ping that they have been lied to by Yuxi, yet they still remain clueless. Yi Chen realizes Yuxi had already started to play the victim card even before he entered the company. Suddenly, Yuxi, while bawling, says she doesn't care if Yi Chen uses her money, beats her, or even abuses her, but she has tried so hard to find her an internship in hopes that she'll be on the right path. She asks why he is humiliating her friend on the first day of work. When Yuxi asks if he thinks of her as a pushover, suddenly, a guy arrives and asks what they are all doing there and if they don't have work to do. This guy is the manager of the planning department, Chen Kun, and when he asks Yuxi why she is crying and what happened to her face, Yuxi replies it's nothing. Ji Ping immediately tells Chen Kun about the whole thing, and Chen Kun thinks if he shames Yi Chen and makes Liu Yuxi so ashamed of him, she will break up with him and accept young Master Yuan. Chen Kun thinks they managed to make a couple of deals due to Yuan even before Yuxi dated Yuan, and if they actually become a thing, they'll